This is the Gooshbagz Fantasy Football League podcast with your host, Jason Peck.
That's right, you Gooshbagz. I'm here. I'm here. In a pit of despair. But I am here. Sure, I may have used the holiday last week, as an excuse to, not do it. I suppose I had time on maybe Monday. I don't know. But I'm here with the Week 12 edition of the 2022 Gooshbagz Fantasy Football League podcast. I'm your host, Jason Peck. And as you can see, I'm by myself. Benaiah is watching the Pittsburgh Steelers game tonight with his family, so he couldn't make it. And Neil is busy pickleballing or tennising or whatever he does in the evenings on Mondays. So I just decided to run this bad boy myself. We'll do a quicker pod this week. Less tangents and also probably less fun, but we'll make it through, and you guys will get some content for this week. I'm doing this on Monday because that's the only time this week that I have time. So we don't have the Monday night games, but it looks like most of the weeks have been decided already. So yeah, the only ones still up in the air where points could be scored is Ryo and James, but James is winning by 10 points, and he's the only one with players left. So as long as they don't get negative 10 fantasy points tonight, he should be okay. And then my matchup, which I'm down by 40 points currently. So, unless Jonathan Taylor puts up a Joe Mixon / Josh Jacobs type of week, it ain't going to happen. Hence my pit of despair. But I'll be keeping an eye on the game. He does already have 2 points this week. So, I'm happy about that. No, I'm sorry, 0.7 points. So I'm happy about that. He's making his way downtown, running through the defense, hopefully. So, we will start with the injuries of this week.
This week's injuries.
How is he running with a broken leg? Dog, I gotta do this shit. I put a team on my fucking back, though. My leg broke. I don't know how the fuck I'm running right now, though.
Craziness. All right, we do have a few injuries this week. Nothing too terrible. But we did have Travis Etienne is kind of the biggest name out of all of them. He left the game early, but with some sort of ankle or foot or something. I think it was a foot injury. But he was medically cleared, apparently, but just didn't return to the game. So he should be good going forward, and Jacksonville's not concerned about it. We have Darnell Mooney, who had a high ankle sprain. He's going to be out for a while, but he wasn't super fantasy relevant. We had Michael Carter. This was unfortunate because your boy Mike White was in the game, and he happens to hyper-target Michael Carter. So unfortunately, he got an ankle sprain. So he's going to be out also for a few weeks. We have Elijah Mitchell, who has an MCL sprain, and he might be out for a little bit. Not sure how long, but MCL sprains are not really that great. So the backup to CMC, which might be good for CMC going forward. Hopefully he puts out some solid games going forward because Elijah Mitchell is out. And then we have Aaron Rodgers, who left the midway through the third quarter with a rib injury, he said. It was originally listed as an oblique. He said afterwards it was ribs. I didn't see anything today. They said they were going to do some more testing today, but I didn't see anything. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see anything about that. So we will have to see how that goes. But Jordan Love looked really good coming in for him, so hopefully we will be okay coming forward. Whether or not Aaron Rodgers plays. So those are most of the injuries. Nothing too bad there. That's why I didn't even play the sad trombone. No, not the sad trombone. The sad music. Here, I'll play 2 seconds of it because I forgot to play the drop. Okay, that was it. That's all you get. All right, now moving on to the top scorer in the league. We've got probably Neil. Actually, it most definitely will be Neil because, like I said, everybody else has mostly played their players, and James doesn't really have a shot of beating that. So Neil, congratulations. Even though you beat me this week with your dumbass Josh Jacobs BS, congratulations.
Alexander Hamilton.
I've never been less excited to play a drop like that. So yes, we will go from there on to the matchups of the week.
Last week's head-to-head results.
Yes, Benaya, I am acting. That is what I'm currently doing. You just sent me the old acting gif. Because that is what I have to do this week to even put on this podcast, because I'm so sad that I'm on a 6-game losing streak in this league. And I don't know, like, fantasy football is dumb, number one. But, like, statistically, I brought this up in the chat. I've talked to Quartz about this. Statistically, what are the chances? What are the chances that I set a lineup every single week, and it happens to be the suboptimal lineup every single week? Like Christian Kirk and Juju have been monsters the last 3 or 4 games that they've played. Like, nothing less than 13.5 fantasy points. I was just telling Neil this because he was trying to convince me to do the trade, which all of you saw. We did accept the trade. But, they get 6 points, 5 points for me this week. And if I had played any other wide receiver, it would have gotten me, Brandon Ayuk would have gotten me 3 more fantasy points. But, Treylon Burks, Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore, all had over 15 fantasy points. I've never seen a more inept fantasy football manager in my life, and it drives me absolutely bonkers. So, that's where I'm at. I'm having a rough time today, but that's how things go. My team did bad, except for Jalen Hurts, who had 29 fantasy points, and Dalton Schultz, who had 17 fantasy points. And both those guys played on Thanksgiving. And so I'm sorry. Jalen Hurts did not play on Thanksgiving. Dalton Schultz played on Thanksgiving, and I thought I started off strong this week. I had Dalton Schultz and Jamal Williams, who had 10 fantasy points. It's been rough. It's been really rough. As I went through Sunday, I was hoping that anybody would score me more than 5 fantasy points. And it didn't really happen until the nighttime, so that was frustrating. And it may happen again tonight with Jonathan Taylor, but I've already accepted defeat for this week because Neil's going to score 140-ish fantasy points because, it would be around 40 fantasy points, but Josh Jacobs put up 45. I'm sorry. It would have been around 100 fantasy points, but Josh Jacobs put up 45.3 fantasy points this week. I also happened to play against Joe Mixon when he put up 50-something fantasy points. So whoever is playing against me, just assume that they're going to go off. So that's where we're at right now. I was feeling good because Dalvin Cook had a bad game in the noon o'clock hour. Let's see. Debo was also playing in the noon o'clock. No, he played in the second, the 3 o'clock. I don't know. I was feeling pretty good, actually, even though, my team wasn't scoring a lot, but also his team wasn't scoring a lot until Josh Jacobs came along. So, Geno Smith had 19 fantasy points. DeAndre Hopkins at 16.7. Foster Moreau put the nail in the coffin with a touchdown. All sorts of nonsense. At least he didn't play James Conner. That would have been even worse for me. Or Christian Watson. Instead, he traded him to me, so I feel pretty good about that. We'll see. I mean, he's got a bye next week, so there's not next week, the week after. So there's obviously risk involved with getting Christian Watson. But if I can make it into the playoffs, which I think I can, I still have the eligibility to. We'll see. We'll see. But that, that sums up that matchup for my. I'm sorry, I haven't lost 6 in a row, or I haven't. Yeah, I will only have lost 5 in a row, but still very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. So, moving on to matchup number 2. We've got Saquon UC versus Team Buck Nasty. Now, Team Buck Nasty put up 97.6 fantasy points to Saquon UC's 85 fantasy points. This was not a very high-scoring game. Neither team put up huge weeks. Bucks team was led essentially by the 49ers defense, who put up 18 fantasy points. No touchdowns, apparently. I'm sorry. They had 2 fourth-down stops. Wait, is that right? 1 fourth-down stop, 2 fumble recoveries, 2 forced fumbles, 1 sack, and allowed 0 points to New Orleans. We had Justin Tucker, who put up 14 fantasy points despite missing a 67-yard field goal. I can't believe, he missed that 67-yard field goal. He played James Robinson even though he was out. He didn't really have another choice at the running backs. I guess that was in his flex, so he did have a choice. He could have played Marcos Valdes-Scantling or Hunter Henry. But despite that, he still got the win. I'm not even going to play the goose for James Robinson because he didn't even play. On the other side, we did have an actual goose. For Benaya's team, we had Tyler Higbee, who had 0.00 fantasy points. So he evened out with James Robinson, so that's always fun. We had a 2.6 game from Tyler Boyd. Saquon had 13 fantasy points. Tom Brady had 18. Jeff Wilson, the volleyball, had 11.7. And Harrison Butker led the way with 14 fantasy points. Didn't lead the way because Tom Brady had 18, but, he had 14 fantasy points. So, overall, not a fantastic week for Saquon UC. That makes me feel a little bit better. I'm only 1 game behind him in the playoff contention, so that is always fun for me. That's good for me. Not good for Benaya going forward. So, we'll see if my team does better. His team, stays the same or does worse. That would be great. We'll see where it goes. Moving on to matchup number 3, we've got Team CM Keen versus Team Sir Lancelot. Now, this was a very close matchup. The closest of the week. We have Team Keen putting up 125.56 fantasy points, a.k.a. Big Herbs. It would have been a much... No, I'm sorry. His team was DePitts. Big Herbs was on another team. We got Kirk Cousins. Oh, yeah, he put up 125 fantasy points to Adams, 122.96 fantasy points. Oh, okay. So, Team Keen was more of a tale of boom and bust. We had the Dolphins DU put up 21 fantasy points, which I'm sure Adam is very mad about because he is always mad when a defense puts up a bunch of points on him. We had Keenan Allen put up 13 fantasy points. We had Amon-Ra St. Brown putting up 23.4, and we had Kirk Cousins putting up 21 fantasy points. Otherwise, his team was, Ramondre Stevenson was also good, 15.7. You're welcome for that. On the other hand, Robert Tonyan only had 3.5. Tony Pollard had 7. Not too bad. Not terrible days from even your bad players. On Adam's team, he had some very solid outings from his running backs and wide receivers. He had Aaron Jones with 17.4, Austin Eckler with 19.5, Stephon Diggs with 17.7. That was all at the end of the game. CeeDee Lamb with 14.7, TJ Hawkinson with 12.8. And, the worst of the skill players, Devontae Adams, with 10.9 fantasy points. So, very solid outings from everybody. Just didn't get a big week from Tua. You only got 16 fantasy points from him. And then just, like you said, this was also a good game for you. Just unfortunately, you were up against Chad, who is probably the second highest scorer of the week. So, sorry, Adam. It's a rough loss. But I don't feel too bad for you because you're in first place. So, there it is. On to matchup number 4. We've got Team Go Clifford versus Team Young Hose. Team Go Clifford is going to take this one down. We don't have a final score yet. He's currently got 90.5 fantasy points versus the Young Hose 79.72 fantasy points. So like I said, unless Najee Harris somehow gets negative 10, he's not gonna lose this one. We have Lamar Jackson and Nick Chubb putting up 23 and 19.7 fantasy points respectively. Adam Thielen with a big game. He had 16.6 fantasy points, 9 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown. We played Dallas Goedert, even though he's on IR. I think he's been on IR for a little bit, so kind of surprising that he's still in your lineup there. We've got Kareem Hunt with only 2.6 fantasy points. Nick Folk putting up 15 fantasy points. So, some decent weeks from some of your players, but also some not so great weeks because we haven't been managing the roster too well. So, maybe put Chris Godwin in. Probably a good choice, but you didn't. So, I'm sorry, man. But you got the win anyway. You beat out Josh Allen on the other side, who put up 29.92 fantasy points, and everybody else on Team Young Hose was not very good. We had DK Metcalf with 14.5 as the only other one in double digits. Everybody else sucked. Moving on to matchup number 5, we've got Jerry's Kids versus More is Less. And in this case, it is true. Less is more. More is less. Either way, you're getting the loss. You only put up 108.74 fantasy points versus Jerry's Kids 121.88 fantasy points. Jerry's Kids was led by Justin Jefferson and Trevor Lawrence, who put up 25 points each, approximately. I'm rounding slightly up, so not quite 75. But we got Kenneth Walker, who rushed for 14 carries for 26 yards and 2 touchdowns. So not very efficient, but he did get the touchdowns. We had Derrick Henry with 13 fantasy points. Isaiah Pacheco with 15.1 fantasy points. And everybody else just kind of decent. So except for Alan Lazard, who only had 3.4 fantasy points. So not great out of Alan Lazard, but what can you do? Christian Watson is being a beast. On the other side, we've got Kyler Murray, who put up 25.24 fantasy points. We've got Rashad White and Samaje Perine with 15 and 17 fantasy points, respectively. We've got T. Higgins, who put up 20.9 fantasy points. And then the bums. We got Jacoby Myers with 7.7. He did, I think, get hurt, so not so great there. George Kittle, a.k.a. George Brittle, put up 4.1 fantasy points. And Josh Palmer only had 8.1 fantasy points. So not terrible. Your team actually did all right, but unfortunately not enough to take down Jerry's Kids. Well, boys, that was the matchups from last week, and we don't have the weekly awards yet, but I'm going to guess them based on what we've currently got so far. Let's take... What the heck? Why is your kicker going off, Neil? This is insane. He's already got like 10 fantasy points. He's got 9. 2 field goals already. It's insane. Jonathan Taylor needs to get his act together. Anyways, let's take a look at the weekly awards based on what we've got currently. We've got the best team is probably going to be Neil. He's going to be the highest scorer this week. The worst team, a.k.a. the lowest scorer, is going to be the Young Hose, a.k.a. Ryo. Let's see. Most efficient manager. Oh, man, this is going to be tough. Let's take a look at some benches. It's probably going to be like Aaron. No. Those are some big games on the bench. I'm sure this is making for great podcasting. Let's look at the most efficient manager. Actually, most efficient's probably going to be. Yeah, it's probably going to be Neil. Let's see. You got Christian Watson on the bench, and James Conner. Maybe not actually. 10 plus another. Yeah, 14. Yeah, it's probably not going to be you. You suck. Least efficient manager is going to be me, probably. All of my wide receivers went off on the bench, and that was not fun at all. I don't know if Aaron's going to be the most. He left a lot of points on the bench. He left probably 20 fantasy points on the bench. I'm sorry, this is terrible podcasting. Maybe it was Chad. Oh yeah, it's definitely Chad. Chad might have played his most optimal lineup. Yeah, he definitely did. Okay, Chad is going to be the most efficient manager. He played his most optimal lineup. Least efficient manager is probably going to be me. Highest points on the loss is probably going to be Adam with 122.96. Lowest points on the win, once again, is probably going to be James. Unless he beats out Aaron. Najee Harris needs to get 8 more fantasy points in order to beat out Aaron. Otherwise, it'll be either Aaron or James this week with the lowest points in the win. Biggest blowout is going to probably be Neil over me, unfortunately. Narrowest victory is going to go to Chad with a 3-point victory. The overachiever versus there is probably going to be Neil. Underachiever is probably going to be Ryo. That's my guess. So congratulations, Chodes. All right, on to power rankings. At the number 1 spot, we've got Ryo, of course. He is continuing his hot streak, so he has to stay at the number 1 spot. At the number 2, we've got Adam still. Actually, these were not the most recent power rankings, but that's all right. He's at the top still, or at the second to top. At number 3, we've got Benaya, which is still in the same spot. Aaron, I'll put him next. He's got 4 quarterbacks. Now, this is where it's going to differ. The bottom half's going to be swapped around here. I'm going to put Neil at the 5 spot. We've got Chad. You're going to be at the 6th spot. We'll leave you there. Let's go with... I'll go with my team at the 7 spot. Jason at the 7. Nope. Brandon at the 7. At the 7 spot. Jason at the 8 spot. We're going to do James at the 9 spot. Actually, let's do Courts at the 9 spot. James won this week, so we're going to do James at the 9 spot. And Courts, unfortunately, once again, you're at the 10 spot. Even though you had a better week this week, you didn't get the dub. Unfortunately, that brings you down. Now, the waiver wire team that would kick all of our asses this week.
Weekly waiver wire studs.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
That's right. This team would destroy us. And we never saw it coming, for sure. Because this team is full of people that I don't know very well. Or that I would never start on a fantasy lineup. Like quarterback Mike White of the New York Jets, 24.8 fantasy points. At the running back 1 spot, we got JaMychal Hasty at 18 fantasy points. At the running back 2, we got Ty Johnson with 14.3. wide receiver 1. We've got Zay Jones with 22.0 fantasy points. We've got Isaiah McKenzie at the wide receiver 2 with 19.3 fantasy points. Tight end is the tight end from the Baltimore Ravens. And no, not the one you're thinking. It's Josh Oliver with 15.6 fantasy points. At the flex, we got DeAndre Carter with 16.8 fantasy points. The defense is the Panthers D with 13 fantasy points. And the kicker is Jason Sanders, 13 fantasy points. This lineup would get you 156.8 fantasy points. We lost again this week. The waivers this year, I think, are 10-2 for the year. Who knows? They destroyed us, boys. That's all right. That's all right. Tell you what, boys, we're gonna bounce back next week. Speaking of which, next week.
Next week's matchup predictions.
I can see the future! I have to stop you from destroying my race! In the future!
We already did that.
I knew you'd do that!
That's right. We're looking forward to next week. So, the first matchup next week is Taylor Swift Loves Dicker versus the Young Hoes. You already know I got me for this week, boys. And I like my matchups. I like my matchup against Ryo this week. So, unfortunately, though, Ryo's team... Oh, no. Ryo's team is so good. I'm going to have to pick the Young Hoes to win this matchup. I picked the Young Hoes. That's how it has to be. Oh, no. What happened? I can't see. My computer's frozen. I'll be back. I'm back. Alright, we're back. I don't know, my computer froze for a second. So, as I told you, I'm going to have to pick the Young Hoes to win this matchup. I don't think I can win. I don't think I can do it. So, congratulations, Ryo, on your victory for next week. Congrats. On to matchup number 2. We've got Saquon UC versus Team the Pits. Let's see. Ooh, we got some tough matchups here for Saquon UC. Tough matchups. Oh, interesting. They put in your optimal lineup automatically. That's very interesting. For future picks when... I didn't know that. For future matchups, they put in your optimal lineup. If you were to look at like week 13 on Monday, or like so like right now when this video comes out, if you look at the future, either week 13 or week 14, you should see the matchups, and it'll put in your optimal lineup for you. That's very interesting. I wonder if that's new. Let's see. Ooh, this might be a close matchup. We got some tough sledding for Saquon Barkley and your boy Jeff Wilson. I might have to replace him. Jeff Wilson, maybe with Joe Mixon, if he's back. Maybe. Maybe Jamar Chase will be back. Like, there could be some... But I think that's some tough matchups. So, I'm going to have to go with... unless Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase are back, I'm going to have to go with Team CM Keen for the victory next week. He's got some really good matchups in his wide receivers, and I just think that Ramondre is going to run well against Buffalo. Buffalo hasn't been too difficult against running backs. you know, he's got to hope that Kirk Cousins puts on a decent showing. But other than that, like, you know, I think he's got some really good matchups that they're going to take advantage of. And I think Chad is going to win that matchup, unfortunately for me. All right, on to matchup number 3. We've got Sir Lancelot versus Jerry's Kids. And this one's going to be easy for me. I'm going Sir Lancelot because his team is very good. He does have some tough matchups, but so does Jerry's Kids. And I don't think that they can keep up with Sir Lancelot. So Sir Lancelot is going to take the victory. Matchup number 4, we've got Team Go Clifford versus Team Buck Nasty. Buck Nasty. Interesting. Even with optimal lineups in the lineup, and James Robinson probably not even playing, Team Buck Nasty is still projected to beat Team Go Clifford. Oh, because we got Dallas Goedert on the IR, and we don't have a backup tight end on the team. If his team is not updated, I'm going to have to go with Team Buck Nasty, because James has not been updating his lineup over the last couple of weeks. So I just think that's how it's going to be. Chris Godwin's not going to be in your lineup. Oh, wait. No, I'm wrong. I was wrong, guys. They don't optimize your lineup looking forward, because Chris Godwin is still on the bench. That's just, you just both happen to have your optimal lineup in previously. So I lied about 5 minutes ago. Don't listen to me. I'm an idiot. I'm moving on to matchup number 5. We've got More is Less versus Cooking Some Lamb. We've got Kyler Murray on a bye, and Justin Fields, who knows if he's going to be playing. Woo. Tough. Let's see. Cooking some Lambs on a hot streak here. Dameon Pierce is not looking that good. Rashad White is looking okay, but Miles Sanders against a tough Tennessee defense. I might have to go with Cooking Some Lamb. I'm sorry, Courts. Things are not looking good for your team. I'm going with Team Cooking Some Lamb. And boys, we did it. We made it. We made it through the Week 12 edition of the Gooshbagz Fantasy Football League podcast. I appreciate you guys sticking with me despite the fact that I am a sore loser and I, was having a rough time here with my 5-game slide. So, I'm looking forward to potentially maybe a victory next week. We'll see. Why am I out of focus? Let's fix that. Thank you. All right. Maybe a victory next week, but probably not because I'm playing Ryo. So, them's the breaks. I'm probably going to be eliminated next week because Ryo is going to beat me. So, congratulations to everybody who's going to make the playoffs because I won't. So, have a great week, you chode bags, and I hope that this next week is the best one ever. I don't know why I said that. That was a cool, strange sign-off. But anyway, you guys enjoy your matchups next week. Hopefully I'm not a pit of despair next week. And we're going to have a great time because fantasy football is fun. See you guys. Fantasy football's not fun. Why do we play this game? Guys, don't leave me. Don't leave me.